The most beautiful mind football has ever produced was 10 minutes from lifting the World Cup. And instead, one whisper from a stranger made him lower his skull into an opponent's chest in front of a billion people. What could possibly make a man this calm, this controlled, do the ugliest thing imaginable in the last match he would ever play? July 9, 2006, Berlin, the Olympia Stadium under floodlights holding its breath. On the pitch, a man playing the final 90 minutes of a glittering career. About to leave the game as its undisputed artist, and then in the 110th minute, he walks off the field a different man forever. One whisper, the last thing he ever did on a pitch. This is the story of how it came to that, and of what those words actually were. To understand the headbutt, you have to understand the hands it came from, because no one moved a football like Zinedine Zidane. He was born in Marseille, in a working-class district called La Castellane, the youngest son of Algerian immigrants who had come to France looking for work and a quieter life. He grew up on a concrete square between the tower blocks, and from those first touches there was something different about him. A stillness, a sense that the ball was simply easier for him than for everyone else. He did not run so much as glide. He beat defenders not with speed, but by making the game slow down around him while he stayed calm at the center of it. They called him Zizou. By his peak, he was, by common agreement, the finest midfielder on earth. A player who could take the ball in the tightest space, turn on it with that famous half pirouette, and find a pass no one else had even seen. He was not a goal machine or a sprinter. He was a maker of moments, the perfect first touch, the impossible turn. The volley struck so cleanly, it looked planned for years. Coaches and rivals spoke about him the way people speak about a great pianist. There was a coldness to the brilliance, too, a temper that flickered underneath the calm that had flashed into red cards before, that the world mostly chose to forget because the football was so beautiful. And in 1998, he gave France the greatest day in its sporting history. In the World Cup final in Paris, against the holders Brazil, it was Zidane, a midfielder, not a striker, who rose twice to head France in front, 2 goals from corners. And France became champions of the world for the first time on home soil. For a country still arguing with itself about who belonged, the son of immigrants from Marseille became something larger than a footballer. He was the proof. He retired from international football, his legend secure. And then, with France struggling to qualify and a generation pleading for him, he came back. One last World Cup, one last summer, a chance to walk away on his own terms at the very top. With the whole story finished cleanly. But Germany 2006 would begin as the worst kind of goodbye. The kind that makes a nation wish their legend had stayed retired. The 2006 World Cup in Germany was supposed to be a quiet goodbye. For 2 weeks, it nearly was. France stumbled through the group stage looking old and slow. And Zidane himself, suspended for 1 match, looked like a man whose body had finally caught up with his age. The whispers started early. He had come back too soon. The magic was gone. The farewell would be an embarrassment. And then in the knockout rounds, the artist remembered who he was. In the round of 16 against Spain, he scored and ran the game. In the quarterfinal against Brazil, the holders, the favorites, the team of his greatest day 8 years before, he produced perhaps the finest performance of the tournament, gliding through the world champions. Dictating every rhythm, setting up the only goal. The old turn was back. The stillness was back. France knocked out Brazil, then beat Portugal in the semi-final. Zidane calmly converting the penalty that sent them through. He had dragged a fading team to the World Cup final by the sheer force of his football. 1 match left, 1 match in his entire life. And in the 7th minute of that final, against Italy in Berlin, he did the most audacious thing a footballer can do. France won a penalty. Zidane stepped up, last match of his career, biggest stage on earth, the whole planet watching. And instead of blasting it, he dinked it. A panenka, the softest, most arrogant chip straight down the middle. Daring the goalkeeper to dive, the ball floated up, kissed the underside of the crossbar, and bounced down over the line. The most beautiful mind in football had announced his farewell with a piece of pure nerve. France won, Italy 0, inside 7 minutes. It was, for that moment, the perfect ending writing itself. And that is exactly when the night began to turn, because the man marking Zidane was already plotting a very different ending. But football does not let you write your own ending. 12 minutes after the Panenka, Italy struck back. A corner swung in, and a defender named Marco Materazzi, a tall, combative center-back whose whole job is to unsettle artists like Zidane, rose above the French defense and powered a header past the goalkeeper, one apiece. The Panenka was no longer the story of the match, it was just the first chapter. The two sides fought through the rest of normal time and into extra time, exhausted, locked together. No one able to find the decisive moment. And then came the 110th minute and the moment that would outlive everything else. Play was up near the Italian end. Zidane and Materazzi, who had been tangling all night, were jogging back side by side, away from the ball, exchanging words. We will probably never know the exact phrasing, but what is established is that it was an exchange of insults, personal and provocative. The kind center-backs have muttered to forwards forever to get under their skin. Materazzi has said he responded to a sarcastic offer of his shirt with a crude insult aimed at Zidane's family. Whatever the precise words, they landed. Zidane took a few steps forward, away from Materazzi, and then he stopped and turned. And in front of the entire watching world, in the last match of his career, 10 minutes from the final whistle of a World Cup, he might still win. He walked back, squared up, and drove the crown of his head into Materazzi's chest. The Italian went down. The most beautiful mind in football had done the ugliest thing imaginable at the worst possible moment, for reasons most of the planet would never understand. But the referee hadn't seen it, and what happened in the next 60 seconds would decide whether Zidane stayed on the pitch or took the longest walk of his life. The referee had not seen it, but the fourth official had, and after a long, agonizing pause, the message came through. The referee walked toward Zidane, reached into his pocket and held up the red card. Sent off in the 110th minute of a World Cup final, the last match of his life. Zinedine Zidane was dismissed, the captain of France, the artist, the favorite for the tournament's Best Player award. Ordered from the pitch in disgrace before millions. And then came the image that would never leave anyone who saw it. To reach the tunnel, Zidane had to walk the length of the pitch, and his path took him directly past the World Cup trophy, gleaming on its pedestal at the edge of the field, waiting for whoever would win the night. The two stylized gold figures holding the globe aloft, the thing he had come back from retirement for, the thing he was now walking away from. He kept his head down and walked past it without a glance into the dark of the tunnel. Out of the match, out of the game, forever. He never played another minute of professional football. The last act of the most graceful career the sport had seen was a red card and a silent walk past the prize. France went on without their captain. The match ended one apiece and went to a penalty shootout. Italy's goalkeeper held firm, France missed. And when the decisive kick was buried, it was Italy who were champions of the world. 5-3 on penalties. The trophy Zidane had walked past went to the men in blue. And here is where the story should have ended in disgrace, except football decided to do something almost no one expected. Here is the strange thing, the thing that makes this story unlike any other ending in sport. He should have been remembered as a villain. He headbutted an opponent in a World Cup final, abandoned his team in their hour of need, and threw away the perfect goodbye for a flash of fury. And yet that is not how the world remembers him. A few days after the final, with the disgrace still fresh, the votes were counted for the Golden Ball, the award for the best player of the tournament, and football gave it to Zidane anyway. The red card, the headbutt, all of it, and still no one could bring themselves to say anyone had played more beautifully that summer. Over the years, the headbutt curdled from scandal into something closer to myth. It became a statue, cast in bronze and displayed as art, the most replayed, most debated moment in the sport. People did not forgive it so much as fold it into legend. Proof that even the coldest, most controlled genius the game ever produced was, underneath, a proud and breakable man, Who would not be insulted? Not with the World Cup on the line, not on the last night of his life as a footballer. The flaw made the artist human. The human made the flaw unforgettable. The most beautiful mind in football. One whisper, the last thing he ever did on a pitch. A bowed head, a fallen opponent, and a silent walk past the only trophy he had come back to win. So here is our question, and we genuinely want your answer. If a stranger had said the worst thing imaginable about your family, with the whole world watching and a World Cup 10 minutes away, could you have walked away clean? Was the headbutt the saddest ending in football history, or somehow the most fitting one Zidane could have had? Tell us in the comments, we read them, and the best replies shape what we cover next. And speaking of endings that haunt the men who lived them, next time on Field and Tail, we go inside the most infamous missed penalty in World Cup history, the kick that turned a hero into a ghost overnight. Subscribe and hit the bell so it lands in your feed the moment it drops.